Diolch yn fawr iawn. I mean, that was a wonderful introduction. Now, I hope I'm going to live up to expectations after all of that. But thank you very much. Noswaith dda I chi gyd. Diolch yn fawr iawn am y gwahoddiad I ddod yma ac yn siarad heddiw. I'm absolutely delighted to be joining you to mark the launch of the Institute of Export and International Trade in Wales. And I'm very, very grateful to Paul and Marco and Terry for inviting me to deliver this keynote speech. The location is, as we've heard, of course, very highly fitting. Cardiff's docklands have attracted traders from overseas since the time of the Romans. And this iconic building now sits at the heart of the city's historic industrial hub. But when the traders first began coming here, they were, for the most part, just passing through, stopping briefly before they continued further up the Severn Estuary to England. Well, I'm pleased to say we've come a long way since then, and we need to reverse that. Wales is rapidly becoming a key player in the UK's trade and exporting strategy, and indeed Wales is at the centre of the UK government's agenda to help businesses export, to drive investment, to negotiate free trade agreements and champion free trade across the globe. And both myself and Alistair Jack in the Scottish office and Chris Eaton-Harris in the Northern Ireland office are absolutely focused on making sure that these regions, which have too often been overlooked in the United Kingdom, are now at the forefront of government thinking. So I'm very pleased with the work the Department for International Trade is doing. The Minister refers to it as the Department for Good News. I want everyone else to be seeing it as the Department for Good News. And since the EU referendum, we've embarked on a very ambitious mission to try and secure new free trade agreements with key players across the world, in addition, of course, to trying to ensure that we maintain the close working arrangements that we've always had with our partners in Europe. And I have noticed over the last 6 years, and I was a member of the Council of Europe for 9 years, so I felt to some extent the irritation, if I can put it that way, that some of our EU partners had with the UK after that vote. But I've also noticed that that has changed and been replaced by a much more pragmatic attitude over the last few years. And of course, since then, as Marcus was saying, we've concluded major trade deals with Japan, Australia and New Zealand, which will collectively attract billions of pounds to the UK market. We saw last year exports of lamb to the United States for the first time in over 2 decades. First consignment was from a meat processing centre in Carmarthenshire, which I hope to be visiting soon. And we think that this could be a market worth up to £37 million a year over the next 5 years for the Welsh red meat industry. Of course, that is only the start of the story. It remains our ambition to secure a comprehensive free trade arrangement with the United States. We're currently in live negotiations with India, which, as many here will know, is a country which is going to rapidly become an economic superpower, projected, I think, to be the 3rd biggest economy in the world by 2050. So there are huge opportunities there for businesses in both Wales and India. And we're making very good progress towards the UK's accession to the CPTPP. I think I've got that one right. Not just a nifty acronym, but a huge trans-Pacific trading bloc, which could actually be worth trillions to the United Kingdom economy. So yes, as you said, in a few weeks' time, I'll be flying out to India to champion Welsh exports. We've met some of the companies, actually, who are exporting out there, and perhaps there'll be more about that in a few weeks' time. We want to lay the groundwork for Welsh businesses to benefit from the free trade agreements, which we're currently negotiating, and I'm really looking forward to being joined by at least one Welsh company who I hope will be signing off a really major deal in India. So there are exciting opportunities, and I'm sure there'll be many more to follow. It's becoming clear that India is a huge market for Welsh exporters across all manner of sectors, not just sort of heavy manufacturing, but also medical technologies, world-class food and drink. There are some other very niche products that are going out there, and some perhaps 1 or 2 companies that will be familiar to all of us who I hope will be also benefiting from closer links with India very shortly. So I'll certainly be pleased to be out there showcasing the very best of what Wales has to offer. Alongside all of this, the UK government recently published a refreshed export strategy to give our exporters the tools that they need to capitalise on our new independent trade policy and to drive productivity across every part of the United Kingdom. And this refreshed strategy is transforming export support services, using targeted new interventions and harnessing the potential of data and digital to create a fully integrated export system centred around the export support service. At its core, the strategy is about giving the exporters the skills and know-how they need to overcome the barriers to trade. We want to help businesses of all sizes, but of course, particularly as mentioned, we recognise the importance of small micro businesses and the special challenges which they face sometimes in branching out into export. So it's very important in Wales, of course, where I think SMEs account for 2/3 of employment and around 99% of total enterprises. We know very well that recent headwinds have presented obstacles for exporters here in Wales, and there have been challenges in adapting to the new processes post-EU. It's been an adjustment for exporters and hauliers. You were kind enough to mention I worked in logistics myself for around 10 to 15 years, depending on whether or not I want to count the times when I should have been at school alongside my father. But interestingly, we started off in Newport, a small business that was set up as a warehousing business and branched into transport and then other things. But the point I was going to make was before I did step into a supervisory and managerial role, but I actually gained an HGV at 21 and was driving lorries for Lucas Girlings, where we had a just-in-time contract. For any who remember, it's called Verity now, but we all remember it as Girlings. And this was in the late 80s and early 90s, so I remember the difference very well between going into the channel ports and having to do the paperwork, which at that time didn't take actually all that long. But it was very much paper-based, handed over in a porter cabin, somebody would stamp it and off you go. And then all that changed, of course, around about 92 when we entered the single market, and that's changing back again. But it doesn't need to go back to where we were in the 80s. We've come a long way in terms of computers and things since then. So I think there are huge opportunities. But as you said, we need to make sure that digitalisation makes things a lot smoother. So we know that the headwinds have presented obstacles for our exporters. We know that people have had to adapt to these post-EU processes. And we believe that we can make this a lot smoother. And there is, of course, negotiations going on in Northern Ireland at the moment around how we ensure that what is going on in mainland UK can be replicated there as well. On top of this, the UK government are offering bespoke training programmes through the UK Export Academy to help businesses navigate the technicalities of exporting. Back in November, we announced 8 export champions for Wales, and I was absolutely delighted to see Kemi Badenoch, the Trade Secretary, coming to T. William Morgan, our new UK government hub, right here in Cardiff, just down the road there, to make that announcement. And these 8 export champions have a proven track record of successfully tapping into international markets. Their expertise will help lead the way for other Welsh businesses, big or small, to do the same. And that expertise is matched only by the scale of ambition, perfectly demonstrated by Samosa Co., a company over in Pontyclun with ambitions to one day export samosas to India. And what an achievement that will be. So there's a great deal to be getting excited about when it comes to exporting Welsh goods. And I was delighted to see that the value of goods and exports for Wales stood at £19.4 billion for the year ending September last year, an increase of 36%, and I hope a sure sign that the levels of goods being exported out of Wales have now returned to where they were before the COVID pandemic. But of course, this is no time for complacency. I want us to be in a position where every company in Wales that wants to export has both the resources and the skills to make it happen. And I'm pleased to say that the UK government is in complete alignment with the Institute of Exports. We want to get this message out to Welsh companies, particularly the small companies and micro businesses, and it's a mission that I look forward to undertaking together. For our part, our new DIT Wales team right here in Cardiff are a key part of this. They are, of course, I'll say it again, just down the road there at T. William Morgan. Their focus will be on extending the opportunities for our new trade deals, supporting Welsh businesses, championing Welsh produce across the globe, but being available for any Welsh businesses who want to go and see them face to face. Meanwhile, DIT is also expanding its global presence with teams now based in 180 global markets, providing support to Welsh companies, well, all UK companies, of course, who want to expand their exports. And we are piloting the UK Trade Show programme, an initiative designed to encourage UK companies, especially SMEs, to exhibit their products to the world's biggest trade shows. Closer to home, our Made in the UK Salt of the World campaign champions British goods and makes UK businesses aware of the export opportunities that are available for them. In short, we are ramping up support for exporters like never before. which has meant that after a few challenging years, the tide is now beginning to turn, and exporters are beginning to reap the benefits of our newly independent trade policy. There could not be a better time then for the Institute of Export and International Trade to formally launch its brand in Wales and to introduce a tailored approach for Welsh exporters. And I hope that the expertise and the guidance of the Institute, coupled with the array of support available from the UK government, will see ever more quality businesses in Wales develop and grow through exporting internationally. We know the desire and the talent is there. We know that we can grow and manufacture some of the finest goods in the world. We know there is a huge appetite, not just in the EU countries, but in all parts of the world, to make importing from the UK as smooth and painless as possible. All that remains is to make sure that the support and guidance are available in Wales so that businesses across the nation have the tools which they need to break into those global markets. So with the Institute, its footprint now firmly planted in Wales, I believe we can do just that. Felly, diolch yn fawr iawn am gwahoddiad heno. Thank you very much indeed for the opportunity to come, and I look forward to working with you in the years to come. Thank you.